So the national championship is set. And there's a lot of people that probably aren't happy that the Michigan Wolverines are in the national championship because a lot of people.
I don't see why not.
Well,
I don't see why they wouldn't be.
You know, the whole sign stealing thing. You know, it was that was the reason they were having success. You know, there's some people out there. Some people have speculated: if they win the national championship, does the NCAA step in and take it away from them? Does it? There's just been that sort of stuff thrown out there. And J.J. McCarthy, he was asked about the sign stealing and just sort of what impact and advantage it has had for Michigan throughout this whole process. And not only did he defend the program, but he simply pointed out, it's not like we started this whole thing.
I'd say a good number, 80% of the teams in college football steal signs, and it's just a thing about football. It's been around for years. We actually had to adapt because in 2020 or 2019, like when Ohio State was stealing our signs, which is legal, and they were doing it the legal way, we had to get up to the level that they were at, and we had to make it an even playing field. We do work our butts off. We do watch so much film. There's a lot more that goes into play, and a lot of stuff that gets masked, a lot of work that gets masked just because of the outside perception of what sign stealing is all about.
So I'm sure that'll land well with Ohio State fans. I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that.
Does he really care how it lands with Ohio State fans? Probably not. It's what we've said from the onset of all this. And other programs, schools, people can try to act all high and mighty. This stuff goes on everywhere. And people are like, well, yeah, but it's allowed in game. And it's like, okay, well, that's not what I'm talking about. The whole portion of it that's not allowed as far as advanced scouting and all. Teams send different people to spring games all the time. They send them to games in advance all the time. And is it that hard to think that they won't be able to film some stuff with their phone? And it's just – it happens all the time. It's the world we live in now. If anything, I think the rule should be changed only because what's been demonstrated more than anything else is the lack of impact it's had. Connor Stallions hasn't been a part of the program, and yet their two biggest games in the regular season against Penn State and Ohio State, they won. Big Ten Championship, won. Semifinal game, won. Like, it's a good football team. Like, it's almost like the people need excuses as to why they've been so dominant when we've watched them for the past 3 years now. And it's not just sign stealing. I would actually, again, question really how valuable that information is. Only because, and there's some coaches who, they believe in it big time because of how they signal in their plays. There's so many ways around it, of getting around that. And there's so many teams that have known this about Michigan forever that adapted to it and were able to beat them. TCU last year in the semifinal. So it's just, everyone has been doing it. It's just interesting they want to point and blame Michigan because they get caught because of a guy like Connor Stallions. But the reality is this has been going on for a long time in college football in a very big way. I ultimately think when it comes down to it, the biggest advantage or disadvantage a team has is their ability to be able to take the top talented players in high school or in the transfer portal away with huge sums of money in a collective and how they go about handling that in NIL. That's a much greater advantage to stacking a roster than being able to steal signs throughout the course of a game. Because you can know what play's coming, but it doesn't matter if you don't have the horses to be able to stop it.
Hey, man, stop Marvin Harrison Jr., and he's running a stick or a double route. Like, good luck. Good luck. Because if them sign stealings meant that, then we'd see a whole lot more All-Americans out here. I'll tell you that. So, to me, I'm with you on that. Like, Rydell to Rydell. That's an old school way of looking at it. Like, you win against the guy that's in front of you, and you don't have to worry about it. And I watched that Michigan game. You were there, Q. I watched this team in person. It's their physical will that they impose on people that ultimately has been the reason why they've been able to win games. And I don't know that having to read signs and knowing what a team is going to do is going to dictate you getting your ass whooped by the defensive front or getting pushed around like the offensive front, and having running backs that match that physicality, that are built low to the ground and are going to run up your chest when they get into the gaps and get into the holes, and are fast enough and quick enough to break them and make very, very decisive and big runs in games. I mean, it's somewhat simple the way they approach things. Go ahead, John.
No, I was going to say, when's the last time you guys can recall Alabama getting out-physicaled at the line of scrimmage by a non-SEC team, other than what we saw the other night? Because it was pretty evident early on who was more physical and dominant at that point of attack, and it was Michigan. And, yeah, the third quarter got away from them a little bit, and, the early fourth quarter. But still, at the end of that game, it was the O-line getting blown
down
up.
To them pushing them around.
That was my big, and we were talking about this on Tuesday, LaVar. Like, I was texting going, man, they're just better. Like, they just look more physically dominant. And I don't know the last time I can recall an Alabama team who's really hung their hat on that, being out-physicaled by anybody not in the SEC. I don't know the last time that happened. And that's not sign stealing. That's just physical dominance.
That is not a, I know your play, so we're going to be more physical than you. Like, that's not how it works. I don't feel more comfortable going against this dude in front of me because somebody gave me a tendency of what's going to happen because of seeing a sign. Like, that's not how it works. Like, there's some intricate details that could play a part in how you prepare and how you plan, maybe what coverage you call, what personnel you have in there, and that could play a part. But when you're talking about the pure physicality of a game, I ain't never seen a steroid or a sign or a coach win those matches, win those battles in particular. It's the person. It's the people who are doing it. So shots out to Michigan for dispelling that, because even if you want to put it on sign stealing, you can't look at the film and say, yep, that's because of sign stealing. It doesn't equate.
What if you did use a steroid and stole signs? Like, what if you were on the gas and knew what play was coming? How much of an advantage would
I could see if they're running past everybody, right? Or they're running past plays where you can clearly see that they know what the coverages are, or they're running defenses where, okay, they brought a safety down or brought a cornerback on the blitz because they, from the signs that they saw, they dialed up a defense that actually went with what the play call was in perfect relationship. But that's not what we were seeing. You were seeing a highly competitive team play another highly competitive team that had just beat the best team in America to be there to play them. And Coach Saban and his coaching staff, they're not, to me, that's not the type of team that's going to fall victim to a team that stole signs. They're going to out-coach that. They're going to out-prepare that. So whatever it is that you saw a team that was prepared to go out there and play a game, and they had to play it for 4 quarters to be able to win it. And I think that's what the narrative has to be coming out of that Alabama game.
Well, and just to go back to the initial point, off the sound of J.J. McCarthy talking about sign stealing and how it's a part of it, players have felt that way for a long time. And he's, in this particular case, he's highlighting Ohio State, and obviously that's going to create headlines because it's a huge rival. It's the biggest game in the course of the regular season each year. But it kind of unveils the truth that this goes on in a lot of different places. It's a part of the preparation. And everyone's going to challenge, well, how did they go about doing it, and did they do it the legal way? And that can, be put up to question. But what we need to get to is the point of, we had the opportunity this postseason, in bowl season, to have coaches use tablets on the sidelines. And in some cases in the bowl game, the coaches had to both agree that they wanted to use the technology. So take, for example, the Peach Bowl. Lane Kiffin did not want to use the tablet. So what did James Franklin? They couldn't use it. They couldn't use the technology they had. What I find interesting is why? Why not use technology that's at our disposal, whether it's coach the quarterback or the tablets on the sidelines? They do it at the high school level. Think about that. At a lower level, they're doing that. yet they won't do it at college and they do it at the NFL. It is bizarre to me that college football has wanted to stay away from all of this stuff in regards to advancing the game and technology. So the coach, the quarterback, both offensively and defensively, you could easily make that transition. The tablets on the sidelines easily can make that transition. And they're hesitant to do so. So I don't know why, but that's where we're at right now. And I think it's a bad thing, or one of the things that, isn't high on the list of things that need to change in college football. But it's one of the things that would completely eliminate a lot of the sign stealing stuff that's going on right now.